Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a website, go to squarespace.com/𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘓. It's funny, I hate doing things last minute, yet everything I ever do is always last minute. First aid kit. So I've been given a very last minute, a great opportunity, but very last minute opportunity. To give you an idea, in here is my tent, but I've had to make some DIY snow pegs. Alright, welcome everybody to Sweden. Over the next few days I'll be travelling by foot into the Swedish wilderness, experiencing ferocious winds, sub-zero temperatures, building my own shelter, fighting the elements, and of course, I'll be doing what I always do, landscape photography. You see, my mate Jonas has decided to recreate a journey undertaken in 1872 by Professor 𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘪𝘎, which will see him attempt an unsupported expedition to Northeastland in Svalbard, who are leading a team of scientists, archaeologists, glaciologists and a film crew as they attempt to compare findings today with those from the 1872 expedition and highlight the effects of climate change. So, I'm here to help spread the word about this amazing project, promote the cause and share their story. And what do I get out of it? Well, it's pretty obvious. I get 4 days in the Swedish wilderness, new and exciting photo opportunities, and some new and exciting content for this channel. But before any of that, I need to learn how to ski. Yeah, my skiing was off to a bit of a shaky start, but it wasn't long before I got the hang of it. And before I knew it, we had arrived at our first camp for the evening. Okay, well that was a very short journey from the hut to where we're setting up camp. You can see these wonderful tents behind me, and in fact, this one here, Jonas offered me a space in there with him. But I'll be honest with you, I like my own space, so I'm going to try, and I'm not sure it's going to work. But I'm going to try pitching my 𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘪𝘎 Mark II. Now we're not expecting any severe weather, so it should be fine. But there is one thing. This little tent peg here is not really going to cut the mustard in 5 feet of snow. So very last minute, I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, I've made my own snow peg. So this is like an anchor. You bury this in the snow, and then it should give me all the stability I need. I've got 4 of these. And that should be enough for my tent. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind rush so far, and I'm quite desperate to sit down and just take 5. Alright, set up camp.
Ready to sail into the wind, heading west to find my reason, longing for something greater than this, and I'm ripe with anticipation. Yeah, I have a good feeling, staring at the starry ceiling, a dream in my heart. Yeah, this is just the start. My suitcase is packed and I leave.
No, it's a bit anticlimactic, like.
Alright. Well, good morning everybody, good morning. Man, I had a good night's sleep last night. It was, hello? Is it ready? Yep. Okay, give me 2 minutes, thanks. Coffee's ready. So I had a really good sleep last night. I was a little bit concerned because setting up camp and getting everything organised took so long. I had no time for filming this video and explaining in detail what's going on, and no time for photography. But this morning, I got out of my tent, I've had a bit of a walk around, and I've spotted my first photograph. Now, what you have to understand is the environment that we are in. You know, yes, at the minute I'm surrounded by these nice, beautiful birch trees, but they're, You know, it's incredibly messy and chaotic. And what I'm looking for, what I'm hoping for, when Jonas invited me on this trip, what I thought and what I got excited about was that snow-covered, minimalist, bare, barren landscape. You know, like the Arctic tundra. And we're not in the Arctic, but you know that you know, I just love my clean, minimalist photography. And here, just over behind you, is my first example of that, and it's so simple, so straightforward, but here's the first shot of this 4-day cross-country skiing, wilderness camping and photography adventure. At least that's what it is for me. So yeah, I'll get this shot, I'll talk you through what I'm thinking, and then it'll be time for coffee. So I've got with me my X-T4 with a 55 to 200mm lens, and I knew that this lens was going to be important because I want that reach. I want to be able to pull the landscape towards me, so when I see things in the distance, splashes of light, small mountain peaks, whatever, I can go in and get those. And here we just have the most innocuous peak. There's nothing to it, it's not dramatic, it's not spectacular, but what it does have is beautiful light, a bit of shape, faded blue sky, a bit of light hitting the mountain peak. I'm going for a square composition, and I'm including a lot of sky. So it's you know, lots of negative space and a lovely clean image. So let me go ahead and get this. Whew. So, first shot of the day. Exactly the style that I was going for. I think I just mentioned that. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy my coffee, and then we have a big day ahead of us. Yesterday, which was the beginning of this video, very short day. Most of yesterday was just organising and getting everything sorted. We only actually skied about 1 kilometre, and I fell over about 6 times. So today, we've probably got about 12 to 15 kilometres into the mountains, onto the plateau. So the scenery is going to change dramatically, and I'm hoping my skiing is going to improve, because if it doesn't, I'm getting left behind. You see that? I've got my fanny pack. I don't know if you remember, if you've seen my video where I hiked the entire length of the Isle of Skye. I've more or less got the same setup as that video. If you haven't watched that, go and watch it. It's awesome. I'm really proud of it. So go and watch that video. I'll link to that below. But for now, coffee, pack away, and it's time to ski. So we've arrived at camp, everybody's getting set up now. They're doing some specific training about setting up camp in hostile environments. Of course, I'm not a part of the main expedition. I still don't think I've told you what the main expedition is or anything. Man, this is really difficult filming. I mean, the scenery is beautiful, but filming whilst trying to keep up with a group on skis, especially when you've never skied before, I'm struggling to actually film and capture this whole experience. But I'm leaving camp, and I'm in search of views, distant views of beautiful snow-covered mountains. So that is where we're heading, and hopefully have a nice bit of photography before setting up camp and getting some much needed food. So I think I'm just pretty much skiing on ice. So I'll take these off and have a walk around. Check out some of these amazing formations in the snow and ice. Fantastic. Oh, now this is pretty so bright. Yeah, I've been walking around looking at the different shapes in the snow. Very similar to what I was doing in the White Desert in Egypt, if you haven't seen that video. Just looking at the ground, because the light's very harsh at the moment, but we're getting beautiful shadows and shapes in the wind-blown snow. Whilst walking around and looking at those patterns, I noticed this. This is something that gets me very, very excited. it probably shouldn't. I'm hearing the white wilderness, and it's this that gets me. I always find that quite amusing. Not the mountains, not the endless white plains, but yeah, tiny bit of melted ice and shrubbery. That's how we like it. So after setting up camp on the second night, I sat down with Jonas, who explained a little bit more about his upcoming expedition to Svalbard.
So it's called the Jubilee expedition, and it is called the Jubilee expedition because exactly 150 years ago, Professor 𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘪, who would be the kind of like the most well-known polar explorer in Sweden's history, he would be up there with Shackleton and Nansen and all these big other, well-known global polar explorers. He made an expedition to be first to reach the North Pole, failed, and instead became the first person to discover the inside of Northeastland, which is one of the islands in Svalbard. And the idea is to recreate that route together with a group of climate scientists and archaeologists who can look at the 𝘭𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘪 side of the story, to look at how the Arctic is melting, why it's melting, or not why, but how it's melting and how it's impacting our world. Try to do as much climate science as we can whilst we're on the expedition. But the purpose of this expedition is to show that the climate scientists are just normal human beings. They are our heroes of our age. They're the climate heroes of our age.
And we're hoping that my audience can help support, because you're setting up an Indiegogo.
Yes. So we're going to launch basically a funding campaign on Indiegogo for 100,000 euros. We can make do with less than that as well, but of course then we have to cut corners. And when you're doing your dream project, your passion project that you have spent 2 years on,
don't want to cut corners.
You don't want to cut corners.
So there you go, a 30-odd day expedition with this team that's behind us through Svalbard or around Svalbard. I'm sad that I'm not going. I wish I could go, but I'm happy to support however I can. So please, link in the description, support this. It's going to be huge. It truly is, and it's lots to come from it. Documentaries, photography expedition.
Yeah.
I'm too cold. I can't speak.
It is too cold, and we're too hungry as well.
Food,
long day.
Food. Bye. There we go.
Thanks, Thomas.
Link in the description. Yeah, as I was trying to say there before the cold stole my words, there'll be a documentary film, a photography exhibition, a book, and of course all of the important work that the climate scientists, archaeologists and glaciologists, well, those guys, all of the important stuff that they'll be doing. So please, if you can help, follow the links in the description below. Okay, so we set off on another day of skiing. We're not going very far today, but we are going downhill, so expect any filming to be on the GoPro, and I may well fall, so that's going to be interesting. But tonight we're going to be sleeping in snow caves that we're going to dig out, so it's going to be interesting to see the different terrain. This place is magical, and it does seem to change dramatically. Yesterday we were down in the birch trees, now we're up on this plateau, so I'm excited to see where we're going to end up for our camp this evening. So after a bit of skiing and a little bit of photography, we've arrived at Camp 3, last camp of this trip, only we're not staying in tents, we are digging our own shelters. But I have noticed, whilst everyone's getting ready to dig, some beautiful lone trees around in the snow. So I'm going to do my fair share of digging, don't get me wrong, but technically I don't need to learn this skill because I'm not going to Svalbard on the Jubilee expedition. So I'll do a bit and then we are off looking for those beautiful trees in this glorious white snow. But sadly now I've got to go and dig. So it turns out I'm completely claustrophobic and there's no way I can spend another minute in that white coffin. So I'm off out into the wilderness to get a bit of space and a bit of fresh air and of course a bit of photography. So now I found my first two trees here. There's not much to say. I'm experimenting with composition in terms of how big the trees are in the frame. Do I go quite wide and make the tree small, or do I go in quite tight on the tree? I guess one thing worthy of note is the hillside here isn't perfectly clean. There is a much cleaner one a couple of miles in another direction where I'm going to go next. So I will be using the clone removal tool to get rid of some distractions, but the question is, how much do I use that tool? And I suppose a great creative process is choosing what to take out, but actually choosing what to leave in. The odd rock, you know, maybe a smaller tree in the background can add a lot of context to a scene. So that's what I'm doing, handheld, 55 to 200. And we have 2 trees. Yeah, man. Simple, minimal photography. All day. Well, all weekend, really. Absolutely fantastic. Wind's picking up a bit, hopefully you can still hear me. But I've skied across to the other side of the valley, probably about a mile from where I just was, because the hillside is so much cleaner than the other hillside I was just shooting, and we've got some beautiful clouds, some really striking clouds, which I'm hoping might be unbelievable at sunset, but for now they are just making the perfect backdrop for what is going to be, hopefully, a nice layered image. This really is great. I don't feel like I've got any bangers yet, but that's quite funny because I see a banger, as the kids call it, as, you know, a high impact photograph, you know, something that you see and you go, wow. Well, everything that I'm photographing here on this trip, or most things anyway, I very much see as going into a collection at some point, a theme. You know, it's not about a single image, but it's about a group of images, a set of images. So these type of photographs, the quiet ones, sorry guys, it's difficult to see, even though it's not sunny. It's better. Yeah, the quiet images, the ones that are very similar, that have a theme. That's you know, that's what I'm capturing here, and actually I think it's quite a good exercise to go out and perhaps build a portfolio of images that match. But look at this sky, man. Look at this sky. Something could happen. Something could happen at sunset. Of course, I'll be back at camp, so I'll be a lot more restricted, but still, yeah, it looks like it could kick off big time. This is beautiful. So from that last photograph, I was a couple of miles from camp and the wind started to pick up out of nowhere, so I felt a bit uneasy and made my way back to camp. By the time I had arrived, the wind was increasing in severity, so pitching my tent became a much bigger job as I had to dig into the snow and then build a wall to protect myself from the elements. But the scenery was beautiful as the wind whipped up the snow and the low winter light cast a golden hue over the entire landscape. But unfortunately, the severity of the wind made filming incredibly difficult as I tried to photograph the winter windstorm and beautiful light that surrounded camp. What an afternoon it has been. It's been since I was out there photographing those trees, those lone trees on the white mountainside. The wind picked up out of nowhere and it got increasingly stronger and stronger to the point where I couldn't film. So it was difficult. I did try, but there was no possible way I could have spoken to the camera. So that was a challenge. And during the process of filming and taking photographs, because we had some beautiful light, really beautiful light, I managed to wreck 2 cameras. So the only 2 cameras I have, both of them Fuji X-T4s. This is my stills X-T4. I think I've somehow broken the shutter release button. It might be something with the settings of the camera, I'm not sure, but for some reason now it won't take photographs or record video. Yeah, so it wasn't until the next morning that I figured out this problem. I had water, snow and ice on the lens mount, which meant there was a poor contact between the lens and the camera, so yeah, it wouldn't fire. So not really sure what's happened there. And then I got snow on the sensor of this camera, a lot of snow on the sensor of this camera when changing lenses, which I probably shouldn't have done in these conditions. But, you know, the light was beautiful. I wanted to take some photographs. That's why I'm here. So, you know, cameras are there to be used. That's generally my opinion. So, yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, these guys are brilliant. You know, this Jubilee expedition to Svalbard is going to be something else. So I really do encourage you to follow along. I'll link to as much as I can in the description below. I know they're doing a fundraiser, and of course they have a website with all of the information you can follow along. There's going to be a documentary, books, even an art gallery displaying some of the photography.
There's
Hello.
water for dinner now if you...
Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming in like 2 minutes. Cheers. Water for dinner. That means dinner's ready, basically. So I think that's my cue to end it. I think tomorrow morning we pack up and leave. We're not too far from civilization. So with that being said, I'm going to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Squarespace. If you don't know who Squarespace are, then you don't watch this channel. They are an all-in-one website building platform where you log on and you build your own website using their drag and drop system. So if you don't know anything about web coding or web design or anything complicated like that, just go to Squarespace, get your own domain, use their system. They've got 24/7 customer support, nice and easy, and have a professional looking website in no time at all. Oh, how the wind, cold and fatigue messes with my brain cells. Of course, if you do want a Squarespace website, go to squarespace.com/Heaton and you get a free trial. And if you like a free trial, use the offer code Heaton for 10% off your first purchase. Right, camera gear wrecked, body wrecked. Thank you so much for watching. And hopefully, depending on how the camera gear goes, hopefully I'll see you all next week.